So from the feedback I got and in my own opinion, I think that we have as a group progressed a lot from our preliminary tasks to our actual film opening, and I think this is due to many reasons, and the fact that the main reason is teamwork. I mean, in the preliminary task we just got put into our group, so it was harder for us to listen to each other and work together because we just started off as a new group. So we had to really work on our team working skills, and also, and now over the time has gone and that we've gotten used to each other, we really did start to listen to each other, and we started taking other people's ideas into perspective, and it really did building up our teamwork did really help us make a better film opening. Also, in the preliminary tasks we only had 2 hours to do this because we had to film it during 2 lessons. So this made it really hard for us to get all the story, the mise en scène, the props, everything, the casting. We needed to use our own group members to act out the scene, and it was really unplanned, and we didn't do much research on it because we only had 2 hours. We had to film our preliminary task and we had to edit it in those 2 hours, so I think that it was a bit rushed, so we couldn't really think about the mise en scène, we couldn't really think about the casting, we couldn't really think about using a variety of different shots. And at that time we were still new to the amount of knowledge we knew about the camera shots and how important it is. So, and what camera shots is used for what effect and etc. So in our actual film opening, we had like 2-3 months to film it, to research, to plan, to find the actors, actresses, everything. And this really did help us create a better film opening because we could think about the storyline, we can think about getting ideas from other people, like we pitched our ideas to the class, etc., and they gave us feedback to improve our storyline and film opening, and we had the chance to decide what camera shots and angles we used, and to have a location, to see what locations we could use. Like, we researched upon that, and I think that this was a very important part in constructing our film opening, because having the time to plan, to look at the location, to think about casting options and everything really did help us make much better film opening. Like, with the preliminary tasks, the mise en scène was not very good because we used fake money. I mean, we couldn't at that time, none of us had that much money on us, so we couldn't use real money. So this would have potentially got us lower marks. But since we had the time to plan it, we could get that. Since we had time to plan it for our film opening, we could get the props and everything we needed, which we did. Like, for our crime scene, it really did create a realistic crime scene because of the mise en scène we used. Also, in our preliminary task, we didn't have time to think about the costumes the casting wore. I mean, it was very lucky that they had hoodies to show that they were gangsters, but that was by chance, so we wouldn't have really gotten much marks on the costumes either. But in our actual film opening, the 2 detectives wore suits, which from our research we could see that most detectives in other films wore suits, and this made it very realistic. Also, we had researched forensic investigators, the people who take photos of the victim, and we researched that they wear these boiler suits, and we wanted to get that for our film opening, so it makes our film opening look realistic as a whole. So it was really important that we had the time so we could think about all these things. Also, with our film opening, we used our own music, so we created that music ourselves, whereas the preliminary task we used someone else's track. So I think that this really did help us. Like from our preliminary task, we didn't know anything about the software Logic, which helped us make the music track so for our film opening. So I think we did progress in sound, definitely. Also, in terms of editing, there was not much feedback from my feedback. So I think in terms of us constructing it, I think in terms of editing, I think that also, because from the feedback I got from my sisters, they weren't there to construct it, so they couldn't talk about the editing much, as they're not aware of the editing. So I think that because I was there while watching, I think that in our preliminary task, our editing was very limited. Like, I mean, there was not much reverse shots, jump cuts, etc. And I think that this really did, like, we used a more of a variety of editing, especially that we had researched on our editing about the fact that different editing types can mean different things and can be used for effect. So we had the time to do this, but in the preliminary task we didn't have time to do anything. We just had to go out and film there. Also, in terms of titles, I think that in the preliminary task, since we obviously again didn't have time, we couldn't make the titles for it, but in our film opening we did have the time and we used the software called Motion. And I think that from our research also, we could see that there was specific type of movements in crime films that they used for their credits and titles, so we thought that we need to make it more scarier. So for our 0359 title we used the colour red, and it did look like blood, and that would connote danger and crime and violence, etc. And with our titles we made it move and shock and shake to complement and reinforce our genre crime. So all in all, to conclude, that I think that we have improved a significant amount from our preliminary task to our film opening.